What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you all are doing very, very well. I had a great question from one of the fantastic subscribers. You guys always amaze me with the questions that you guys come up with, and I'm happy to answer those questions. So let's get right into that question today. I plan on having Tonal as a supplemental equipment to a rack, barbell, and plates. I would mainly use Tonal for accessory exercises. That being said, I also want to use my own programs that I follow that are not in Tonal. How would I go about using Tonal for this? How can I use or take advantage of the features without it being inconsistent? Can I set my own weight and mode? For example, eccentric mode and progressively overload in increments. Or would I have to deal with the software controlling the weight for me? I don't know where I read or heard about this, but if I tell Tonal that I'm doing a rep range of 15 to 20 and I'm failing a weight at the 18th rep, I don't want the machine to lower the weight so that I can continue to hit the 20th rep. Every program outside of Tonal doesn't take into account what digital weight will do differently. I'm trying to figure out how one would approach an outside program with digital weight in mind. So basically, how are you going to combine free weights with this machine's digital weight, and how are you going to deal with working your own programs and having separate weights that are not digital, I guess. We're going to discuss this, breaking it down. I'm going to periodically read off from this very loaded question and try to give the best responses that I can. Let's get into this. Why would this gentleman even plan on having this machine for supplemental movements and having free weights on the side when this machine is so compact the way it is and you can do any exercise on it that you want? Why would anyone want to do that? Well, very likely this gentleman is going to be doing more than 200 pounds worth of weight. Whatever he's doing, whether it be squats or bench press, he should be doing more than 200 pounds, because if he's doing anything under 200 pounds, or even near 200 pounds, this machine would be more than fine for that, okay? But if he wants to use this as a supplemental machine, and he doesn't already own those weights, well, that would be why. Because this machine has a 200-pound weight limit that you are restricted to. And he also wants to use his own personal programs. Now, that's fantastic. I use my own personal programs. I've never used the trainers, as you guys know. I like building my own programs to fit my goals, because a trainer will never be able to give you what you want, what you need for your specific goal, unless your specific goals are relatively generic. If you want to really dial in on something, you need to build a program yourself that is for you. Just like when you buy a suit at the store. You can go to Century 21, or back when they existed, you can go to Century 21, you could buy a suit right off the rack, and it might fit just right, or it might not fit at all, but you kind of make it work, right? And then you got the suit where you walk in, it doesn't fit at all, and you get it tailored, and now it's perfect. That is the difference. That's the huge difference. The suit that is tailored is the program you make for you. The generic suit off the rack that maybe you gotta kind of fold up the legs on, that is the generic movements from the trainers, the generic programs that you're gonna get, in my opinion. So how can I use or take advantage of the features of Tonal without it being inconsistent? Can I set my own weight and own mode? For example, eccentric mode, and progressively overload in increments. Okay, so you can absolutely set your own weight. Absolutely you can. You go into free mode, like I use all the time, like I used even before I canceled my subscription. When this machine used to be a smart machine, and it had all the features that the subscription offered that you had to pay for, you had the opportunity to say, I don't want any of the AI for the most part, like 99.9% of the AI. I just want free mode, which means you're walking into your own personal gym, you're picking the weights for you, whatever you find best for you, and you are executing it how you feel is necessary. You can do your own reps, you can do your own weight, all that stuff. It's an amazing place. I love being there. It reminds me of being at a gym with free weights. Now, in free mode, you can set various modes as long as you're paying for the subscription. Eccentric mode, Smart Flex mode, Chains mode, Any mode they have, spotter mode, which will help you in case a movement is too heavy and now you're afraid you might get hurt. Automatically the machine picks up that you're weak and it kills the weight. Now you have Bluetooth on this. You can kill the weight yourself for the most part, but at the end of the day, it's a safety feature that may come in handy in the future for you if you have the subscription, okay? So you can take advantage of these very, very awesome features if you have the subscription. If you don't have the subscription, you cannot take advantage of these amazing modes, okay? You can strictly just use free weight mode, which would give you the closest thing to standard free weights that you want. This machine, when you have the subscription, to answer the other part of your question, this machine will choose the weight for you. When you first get this machine, it is absolutely amazing. It takes the thinking, the guesswork out of what most people have a problem with is choosing the proper weight. When you get this machine, you do an initial setup. I've actually made a video on the initial setup if you guys want to take a look at that video. It'll show you, it'll walk you through the initial setup, how the machine calculates your weights and all that stuff. It's going to get a roundabout idea of how strong you are with certain movements. And then once it has that roundabout idea, it is going to use that roundabout idea to give you an idea of what other supplemental smaller movements might be, okay? So fantastic feature, takes the thinking and the guesswork out. That being said, the machine uses those as an initial calibration. But as you move forward in your training, on this machine, if you have the subscription, you are going to automatically have the weights increase as you go. It lets you know, hey, you hit a new PR, I'm going to up the weight. Or let's say you put in a 15 rep range, right? You put in a 15 rep range. That 15 rep range is going to tell Tonal, okay, in order for Joe to be able to do 15 reps, he needs 20 pounds based on his muscles. If you actually do 16 reps, 17 reps, Tonal is going to automatically increase the weight. It is a phenomenal feature. It takes the guesswork out. If you like a 15 rep range, you're going to get a 15 rep range. It's going to give you the perfect weight. Okay, so that is how it increases in increments. If you do not have the subscription, you do not get that feature. You will be doing what you want to do as far as weight and reps. Okay, you need to do the thinking again. Now, is the thinking hard? Not if you know what you're doing. It doesn't take much to know. So if you're using your own programs, you know how to build your programs, right? So if you had this machine, you wouldn't have to do any thinking. But let's say you got rid of the subscription and you had this machine, then you would have to do some thinking. Just like you would have to do your thinking with your own free weights. If I want 15 reps on my bench press on free weights, I need this much weight. That's it. How would you go about dealing with the fact that Tonal's weight is actually heavier than with free weights? Well, that's a very, very good question. See, the thing with Tonal is you can increase the weight by 1 pound increments. You can't really do that, for the most part, with free weights. You're going by like 2 pound increments or 3 or 5 or whatever the case might be. But at the end of the day, you're just going to have to come as close as possible, okay? So if you're on your, if you hit a PR on your free weights and you're stronger now and you come onto Tonal, Tonal's going to automatically know, it's going to up the weight, it's gonna calculate for that, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, if you don't have the subscription, you just need to, the way I like to look at it is, how many reps do you want? Why am I asking how many reps do you want? Well, if you do your own programs, you are probably well aware. The rep range is going to determine how much strength you're going to get and how much muscle mass you're going to get, okay? So if you're going to be doing only 5 reps of something, you're going to be gaining more strength potential rather than muscle potential. If you're doing 15 reps on something, you're going to be gaining more muscle mass than you are strength. So based on your training and your goals, you are going to just simply determine, if you don't have the subscription and you have free weights and you want to kind of balance the 2 types of weights together, you're going to simply have to just determine what is closest to your performance goal. Have your goal start out with the rep range and then move forward from there with the actual weight. Now again, I don't know what you're pushing, what you're pressing. I don't know what weights you're using, but if you're getting free weights, I would think, or you have free weights already, I believe the reason why is because you simply just pushing more weight than what this machine is capable of pushing at this point. But let me just say, if you don't need the free weights for heavier weight, and this machine's 200 pounds will suffice, this is all you need. And then I recommend maybe keeping a pair of adjustable dumbbells around in case your power goes out and you need to work out, or maybe buy a Handy Gym. I recommend this to many people. Maybe buy a Handy Gym, because with Handy Gym, you have a fully equipped gym. Handy Gym is like having a mobile version of this, okay? Except there's no subscription, you know, there's no monthly membership, and there's no electricity involved. So you are golden when it comes to that machine. Now, when you mentioned letting Tonal know that you want a 15 to 20 rep range, and then you're getting close to the end, but you start to fail, and automatically the machine lowers the weight so that you can finish it. I'm not really into that either, so I keep that mode off. I keep off spotter mode, and I keep off burnout mode. Those two modes are what are going to automatically lower your weight. But as long as those modes are off, the machine's going to give you the weight. It's not going to automatically tailor the weight unless you want it to in those modes. So you don't have to worry about that. You can just keep those features off. And if you don't have a subscription to this machine, you won't have those modes anyway. So you are completely free. This is like having free weights, just heavier, more ergonomic, less floor space taken up. You are completely covered with this machine, even without the subscription. Every program outside of Tonal doesn't take into account what digital weight will do differently. I'm trying to figure out how one would approach an outside program with digital weight in mind. Guys, digital weight is a terminology that Tonal is using here. This weight is created using an engine and magnets, and this weight is basically the same exact thing as free weights, except it's heavier. Off the bat, it's heavier. And you can't cheat the weight on this machine. You can't just, you know, use gravity to pick the weight up. You can't do that with this machine. So those are the only two differences. So if you're using a program, right, you have your program, you're using free weights, and you're doing 35 pounds on your curl for the free weights, you might end up doing maybe 20 pounds or, I don't know, whatever the equivalent is, 15 pounds on this. If you have the subscription, the machine's automatically going to know what you need. You don't have to do any thinking. You're going to hop onto this. You're going to use your machine, right? You can use the machine for your supplemental movements. And then when you go back to your free weights, you're going to use a completely separate movement for your other movements. And it's just tailored to, you're just going to have to keep track of your own weight for your free weight movements. But keep in mind now, you mentioned your programs, right? You mentioned your programs. You said on your programs, you don't know how to combine the two, right? Well, you said you were going to be using this for supplemental movements. So your programs, I'm guessing, are going to be completely separate movements for each machine. For your free weights, you're going to have some movements that you only do on your free weights. And then when you come here, you're just going to have the supplemental movements like you mentioned. So maybe those heavy compound movements that you get on free weights, and then smaller movements, more targeted movements on Tonal, right? So in that case, you would never ever have to even use the same movement for each of these separate things, and therefore you wouldn't have to think about a weight compensation at all. At the end of the day, guys, at the end of the day, this viewer, this machine tracks everything if you have the subscription. If not, you track everything. Free weights, you have to track everything anyway. So at the end of the day, you're just tracking. Use your rep range in order to determine what you want as far as your goal, as far as how much weight to use, whether you're on this or whether you're on free weights. I hope that answers your question. Be safe. Catch you guys in the next video.